Hello and welcome back to My Father Before Me, a regular segment where we bring together nerds from different generations to appreciate and discuss the films that shaped our culture and made us who we are today. I'm Brennan and Semm for the New Wave Nerds. This episode I am joined by, of course, my father and perennial nerd, Tory.
Hello, still perennial.
Still perennial, still everlasting. And today we have a very special remote guest. I almost said recording guest. Our very first remote guest, my brother and believe it or not, my father's son, Brady Semm.
Your brother before you.
My brother before me by a couple years. You cheater. How are you doing today? Good. Great. Fantastic. All right, Dad, what are we going to be discussing today?
Well, okay, so you guys know that I've got goals. I got these financial goals. So I've got a little side hustle going. One of my side gigs this past week or so is I got a job as a space trucker.
Oh.
It was quick. It was a quick round trip. You didn't even notice I was gone. But we were woke early out of hypersleep, or whatever they call it. And the company wanted us to go investigate this little signal. And when the guys went out there, they were wandering around doing their thing while I was working. And they came back, and for some reason they let him in, even though this guy had a giant thing wrapped around his head, which disappeared when he was in sick bay, but then came out the inside. And then, it was a little noisy, but as you know, in space, no one can hear you scream.
So they say, at least.
That's right.
Well, welcome back. I'm glad that you escaped this. So, yes, we're going to be talking about Alien from 1979.
You bet. Yeah, it's a classic. And now, again, this is one where it kind of breaks the mold a little bit. Our focus has always been, here's some movie I watched as a child. And I'm going to go ahead and admit right now, in 1979, I was not watching horror movies like Alien. And I don't recall this one we've talked about some of the other movies that were a little too adult for me, but, we catch them on the TBS and stuff like that. But I don't recall Alien being one of those. Aliens was one that was popping up a few times on like the TBS and that sort of thing, but that's more of an adventure movie, and stuff. And it's tough to translate a horror to something that is kid-friendly enough for network air, right? Mm. So Alien isn't one that I was entirely stuck on as a child, but of course, we're talking about some stuff that has in the zeitgeist. It's been in there a while. So
yeah, so this is one obviously I've heard of it, and I've wanted to watch it for so long, but for some reason I just never decided to. I watched it. I tried to start watching it a couple times, but it didn't pique my interest. But I obviously it's a great movie. It's an all-time classic. It's one that people always talk about. It's one of the people always say it's one of the best horror movies of all time. And more or less, I think the issue is that I've spent my whole life hearing nothing but the best about this movie, and I was expecting to be blown off my feet, and then I was watching it and I was like, oh yeah, this is good.
It is what it is. Brady, what about you? I know that I don't think you've ever, was this your first time viewing it too?
You're muted, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were all doing that because in space no one can hear you stream.
There you go.
Nice.
Now we're thinking.
This wasn't my first time watching Alien. This is my first time watching all the other ones, which I did a little marathon myself for all of them. But I had seen the first one before.
Well, and it's interesting because as of now, of course, this day and age, there's two major versions out there too. There's this version that I assume you guys saw this version, which. Where did I watch it? I watched it on Hulu.
Yeah, that's where I saw it at least.
Which is the theatrical release, right? And you can and Ridley Scott has said that this is still his definitive version, even though they did a re-release of what the studio wanted to call a director's cut, but Ridley would only do it if they wouldn't call it a director's cut because he said it wasn't the director's cut. He liked the theatrical release.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Where they added a couple scenes, they added something that may or may not break canon, and then but he took out some things. So it's actually, I think the director's cut, which is odd, is actually a few seconds shorter because he cut out some things in order to fit these other scenes in, just to get him in there. And of course, I'm sure they backed up a truck, or something like that just to get some more money going. And,
Sure.
and I don't know when that released. It was probably released around, Alien 4 or something like that, just to drum things up is my guess. But this is definitely the one that we watched on Hulu. I would agree with you. It is the way it is. And the reason, I can see what you guys are saying about knowing enough of this that it maybe isn't as special, right? But you can definitely see a lot of the things that laid the groundwork for everything else.
Definitely.
I mean, it wasn't the first alien in space movie, but it was, kind of it was a horror flick, and they used a lot of the stuff. They used a lot of shots to give it that horror element, and stuff. So it's definitely a cultural touchstone, in the same way that maybe Star Wars is for space operas, and that sort of thing. This is for space horrors.
Right.
But that's one thing about the Alien franchise, and I know we're going to talk about the other movies later, but it is interesting that the Alien franchise started as a space horror, and then the next one was a war movie, and then the one after that is a prison movie. And, the first few movies, each one was somewhat different. So it's kind of like, what we think of with the MCU right now, how every movie is somewhat of a different thing.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just interesting when you get into that kind of thing. But.
Yeah, no, I always like when franchises expand out and try to do things in other genres within the universe. I think it's fun. That was one of the reasons I was excited about The Acolyte, is because, we're getting Star Wars, but we're going to get, a murder mystery crime thriller at the same time. Mm-hmm. Which it didn't turn into, a crime thriller necessarily in the way that I had envisioned it.
No, it didn't meet those expectations.
But nonetheless, yeah, I like the idea that we're going in sort of looking at other types of genres. I think that's probably one of the reasons why I like Captain America Winter Soldier, is because it's a superhero movie, but it also feels like a sort of political spy thriller almost.
Right. You betcha. Yeah, I think that, when we talk about Alien, there's obviously lots that we can talk about. But, to start with, one of the things that I thought was interesting is, the writing crew. Right, what is it? Dan O'Bannon, I think, is our main credited guy.
What a good name!
Yeah, O'Bannon.
Dan O'Bannon.
He worked with James Cameron on a movie called Dark Star, which I think started out as a student film, but became an actual release. Is what I gather, but basically that is an alien on a spaceship, and the alien in this is a beach ball.
Oh, naturally.
Now I have never seen it, but I've heard that it's more of a comedy and that sort of thing. So he wanted to take that idea and make a horror. He wanted to make an actual gritty horror type of thing. So,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just gonna say, we've talked about this one before, haven't we?
I don't know if we've talked about. We might have when we were talking James Cameron. I'm sure it probably came up. But in fact, Dan O'Bannon, I think, actually acts in it too.
Let's see. Oh yeah, he's the main guy.
Yeah,
or top billed, I guess. Maybe not main guy.
But yeah, so that's how this kind of started out. And then the interesting thing. So, and I'm just going to keep on running with that. Is he got a job. Or what I got from it is he sold everything and moved to Paris so he could work with Jodorowsky on Dune.
Oh, really?
Yes, and we've talked about that back when we were talking about the Dune 84 movie.
Yeah. That
Jodorowsky's Dune, which never got made, of course. And like I said, there's a great documentary if we ever want to check it out. But he, and there he met H.R. Geiger. And Geiger is the guy who did all the art, right? Or did all the visualizations or the envisioning of everything and that sort of thing. And that's iconic. That stuff is out there, as the design, right, that really put it over the top. So.
Yeah. I was just looking at Dan O'Bannon's filmography here. This is weird. So Alien is like the second story credit, which is crazy. I mean, normally when you see something like this and it's, massively culturally acclaimed, critically acclaimed, you sort of expect it to be more like later in somebody's years. They've got some bad movies beforehand to get some experience. But no, this is really early on.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And, his writing partner that he's credited with, that Ronald Shusett, works with him on, heavy metal. We talked about Blue Thunder before. It's a helicopter cop, not from not Running Man, but a different helicopter cop. But he also, something we'll eventually talk about, he wrote Total Recall. So he met up with this Ronald Shusett. Ronald Shusett had the rights to the Philip K. Dick novel that Total Recall is based off of. And they decided to finish his Alien movie first because they thought it'd be easier to get that made than Total Recall.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting too.
Total Recall. I know that I've seen like parts of that, but I honestly couldn't tell you like any of the story.
Well, and that's another one. Brady will mention it too. That you guys did a lot of Family Guy. So I'm not surprised if over the years you guys have seen a lot of these movies parodied, right? Definitely. In that way, right? I mean, Brady, I'm sure you have seen half this movie before watching the movie kind of thing.
Yeah, that's called partial recall.
Partial recall. That's a good one. Speaking of parody, I can't believe I didn't mention this earlier. The only part of Alien. So here's the thing. Another reason that maybe Alien didn't quite hit so hard is because of like Spaceballs.
Spaceballs. Well, and the best part is that's actually John Hurt. We haven't talked about the cast yet, but that's him just reprising his role.
As soon as that happened in this movie, the first thing that popped in my head was, "Hello, my baby."
Yeah,
Hello,
he didn't get up and dance. I missed that part. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity for sure. It was definitely in keeping the tone of the film.
Yeah, and it's definitely again, some of the scenes in this movie are iconic. Just the designs, of course, are interesting. And we talk a lot about set design and that sort of thing. And set design, they specifically made the set kind of look organic as well to give it that creep factor.
Yeah.
And I thought I heard at one point, and maybe this is a myth, but at one point they would go in and shrink the walls down of the set just to make the cast feel like it was tighter,
That's cool.
and stuff and that kind of thing. So, it's interesting when you do that and you really get in there. Like the director, was that Yaphet Kotto, I think is the guy's name.
Oh yeah, who played Parker.
Which we recently saw in Running Man as well.
Oh, that's why you look so familiar.
That's right. The director actually told him to be mean to Sigourney Weaver, so off scene, so that they could, have that antagonistic quality or whatever, that back and forth.
That's what it was. It wasn't definitely that Ridley Scott just hated Sigourney Weaver.
No, not at all.
So speaking, you mentioned Family Guy. Anytime I see Sigourney Weaver, the only thing I can think, and I almost say it every time, is there's a joke in Family Guy where they go to like an old folks home and they're watching Avatar and the Blue People. And there's a button where you can pause the movie anytime you have a question. And one old guy pauses it and goes, "Is that Sigourney Weaver?" I think that every time. And I'm probably going to say it at some point throughout the episode.
Well, whatever works. So, I mean, this is what pre-Ghostbusters for her. Right. So
that's
but of course, since then she's been in. Well, she was in the first 4 Alien movies. Obviously, kind of made her bones there, but definitely got cast in that way. Right.
Well, and she's great in this movie. I mean, Sigourney Weaver's always great, but I really liked Ripley in this. It was really fun. I enjoyed seeing her like try to problem solve, and I liked the chemistry between the other crew members. I thought it felt good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was to Dan O'Bannon's credit. It was good writing.
Right. And you wonder sometimes how much of that was written out and how much of that was on set. That sort of thing, but you can definitely see that there's it's definitely not Star Trek, right? Famously, Roddenberry in Star Trek made it a mandate that there should never be crew drama. You're right, and then now he's dead, and now we get Discovery, which has plenty of crew drama. But it's definitely not that. They're making it feel more real.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and I like the idea that, in Star Trek, we've got the United Federation of Planets. It's sort of like a bureaucratic entity, right? And then in this, they're like corporate miners or whatever. So I like the idea that the culture is incredibly different.
Right.
In Star Trek, it's like they're a close-knit, like military crew or whatever. And in this, they're just people who have a job.
Right. Yep. You betcha. Brady, what do you think? What's sticking out for you here on this one?
I think I like what you guys were talking about, the interrelationships between the different crew members, and like the problem solving, because that is one thing that like sets this movie apart from like some of the other horror movies around that time, is that everyone on the crew was a completely competent person who knew their job, was intellectual, could problem solve. There wasn't a bunch of dumb teens running around in a slasher movie. It was a bunch of like capable people that were being sabotaged, which is something that you don't see very much.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a good point. They're all competent. They're all very accomplished in their own ways, and I like the way that they actually try to problem solve when they're catching. Like just shortly after it, like chest bursts. I don't know what you would call that stage of development. I don't know. What's the alien called? Is it a xenomorph? Is that the word?
Yes, I think that's what you go with, right? Brady,
Yeah,
have you?
so I did some research and I know the whole life cycle.
Okay, let's hear it.
Egg, which is called the ovomorph.
Oh, okay.
Then
Makes sense.
you get the face hugger. Then it becomes
Technical
a chest
term.
burst. What it's called. Then it becomes a xenomorph, and then at that point it can either be like a xenomorph drone, which is what we see here, or a warrior, or a queen, which we see in the second one, Aliens. And there are a whole bunch of like different variations because xenomorphs, at least in some part of the canon, are dependent upon what organism they burst out of the chest from.
Well, I think don't we get in future, like in futures? And I want to say it's number 3. Maybe this is too much spoiler stuff, but I think like he comes out of a dog, right, or something, and he gets more of a canine or running on 4 legs kind of thing, and that kind of stuff. So
Interesting.
yeah, maybe that just ruined the entire movie. So I guess it'll be terrible.
Yeah, I'm gonna hate it. No, Alien 3 is not the one that gets panned. It's Alien. What is it? The 4th one, Alien Resurrected?
Resurrection, yeah. Have you watched that one yet, Braid? I know you're watching ahead, but...
Not yet. That's the next one. I just finished 3 last night.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I'm
Three's the prison movie. And I think, so I want to say, and we talked about this with Mad Max Thunderdome and stuff like that. When I came into it, I think that 3 is where, and I equate, and I don't know release dates, but I think Alien 3 was kind of around the same time that I would have been, stuck to the HBO like I was and caught Escape from New York and Escape from LA, right? Because it was around that time where all the special feature stuff. Now, I go out and watching YouTube videos and stuff like that. But back in the day, there was the HBO that would just push this stuff constantly, right? And they would have 30-minute special features, the making of Alien 3, or and that kind of thing. So it's that kind of thing that really brought me into these kind of things. And that's why when we talk about the going back and watching the original ones, they weren't ones I necessarily caught. It's ones that I kind of kicked off that whole idea of just knowing how much what's put into these movies and then going back and finding them.
Yeah, it's always fun watching like the behind the scenes stuff, the special features. I definitely need to start doing that more. That's why I like my box set of Planet of the Apes,
right?
Because it's got special features for all of them.
Well, and I know that some of the streaming services are doing better with that, where they'll have extra features and stuff. But that's really That was why I love the DVD Blu-ray side of things. I mean, you'd go to the store and there'd be a DVD that just had the movie and the DVD that had a Blu-ray and special features. And of course, that's the one you go for, So.
Yeah. And I think that the difference between like DVD and like, say, streaming is, and maybe this is just me, maybe this is just my perception, but like something about the way the streaming does it, it feels much more like marketing, whereas the DVD stuff, and maybe it's just because it's, you got to buy something and you got to like actually look for it. But the DVD stuff feels much more like an actual extra.
Right. And you got to pay for the packaging.
Yeah. So I just looked it up.
That's right.
Speaking of paying for packaging, have you seen the 25th anniversary Alien quadrilogy box set?
No.
Well, I think that's important to have.
I half expected you to just pull it out.
I was going to say, I thought we were going to see it, but
here we go. I got an image here. Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can.
That's the 25th anniversary. It has all 4 of the original movies and like dedicated discs to making ofs for all of them, I think.
And the head opens. I've never needed anything more.
That'll fit nice on the shelf.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That would look great. This reminds me of, I bought a, like that, maybe you remember this. It was way back when we lived on Arizona. I had the, like set of all of the Fallout games, and it came in like a nuke.
Yep,
I
we got the nuke. Yep,
that was so cool. But I looked it up, and Alien 3 was in 92. Escape from LA was 96. So they're pretty close.
So I mean they're around the same. Well, obviously I spent many years just staring at HBO, but again, it's one of those things where you get with these sequels sometimes, and of course maybe we're in more of a sequel. I guess, we had the James Bond stuff back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and that sort of thing. But I think right now, right about that time was when we were hitting the sequel mark, right? Where people just started taking the IP and continuing with it. But then again, that, like I said, that got me as a younger, somewhat younger generation, I guess 91, I wasn't that young, person and getting back into it, and that kind of thing. So, and I think that maybe, the reason we're doing this, part of the reason we're doing this, besides the fact that it's great to make you guys watch these old ones, but part of the reason is because of Romulus coming out, right? And they're continuing that IP and bringing it back, and giving us something to enjoy. So
yeah, this is definitely like probably among like one of the longest standing franchises. I mean, we've got relatively consistent movies from 79 up until 24 with Romulus. We've got Alien Covenant and Prometheus and the 4 original sequels. And I think they're doing like a prequel TV series too or something like that. They're definitely putting out a lot of content in this universe.
Are they still doing that? I knew they were planning it at one point.
I think they are.
Who was it behind that?
I think it's Alien Earth. It's coming out supposedly in 2025.
Okay. Yes, that's right. That's what it was called.
Because I can't remember who was it Trachtenberg? It's somebody that I recognize the name who's behind it too. So I was kind of looking forward to it. But
it's interesting when you bring up like generations and sequels, because Prometheus is what got me into Alien. Originally, when Prometheus, the prequel, came out.
Is that the one that when it came out, it wasn't like received well, or was that the other one? I can't remember.
Prometheus. I mean, Prometheus
received great, but Covenant, the second prequel, was received worse than Prometheus.
Okay, interesting.
And they had one plan, but they didn't go through with it because of how Covenant was received.
And part of that, I think, was because Prometheus did what sometimes you don't want to do, and they focused on in Alien. It's the space jockey, the corpse we see with the chest burst originally, right? They focused on that backstory, and some people don't like that. I thought it was all right, but then he took it and, they just kind of started to, let's try to explain this away. And sometimes when you're getting into this, Noah Hawley, that's who I was thinking of. Right. Sometimes when you're getting into this, you are, you're kind of happier not to know things and just, this is weird, right? Here's this 12-foot guy or whatever sitting here. What the heck is that? And and there's an alien that came out of his chest. Once you know that he comes out, and that sort of thing. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, so I think that maybe that might have been something on Prometheus that kind of hurt it.
Interesting. Well, no, I mean, I get what you're saying. Sorry, go ahead, Brady.
Another thing that wasn't great for Prometheus is that when it was originally created, it was just supposed to be in universe of Alien. He never truly intended it to be an official prequel. That's why some things at the end of the movie, which I won't talk about, aren't exactly similar to what you'd expect. And then some of that sentiment reached back to him after they came out, and that's why Alien Covenant was a bit more directed towards an actual prequel of Alien, and that's why Prometheus is just Prometheus, and Alien Covenant is Alien Covenant.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. Maybe, the right thing probably would have been to just set it in the universe.
Right.
Especially, considering the name's different. If you're going to try and sort of fit it in as a prequel, then I think you kind of got to change the name a little bit.
Well, and so back to Alien too. I mean, it's interesting when you talk about in-universe. Ridley Scott, of course, he did Gladiator, The Martian, stuff like that, but he also did Blade Runner, and he's always said that he believes that the Alien and the Blade Runner universe is the same universe. And I think somebody worked out the timeline on a YouTube video or something like that. But he's always said that they actually all happen. It's all one big cinematic universe. And then, of course, we got Predator pulled in there, too, which we can bring up at some point. But that's what he's saying is he's always believed that it's all, I mean, this is his whole Ridley Scott world or whatever. But the
Scottiverse, you might say.
There.
Alien versus Predator technically isn't in the universe because the timeline doesn't match up. So it's been decanonized.
Oh, because they ruined it.
We learned in Prometheus, we learned in Prometheus and Alien Covenant, the origin of the xenomorphs. Well, obviously xenomorphs aren't running around in 2004 Earth.
Well, we don't know.
Here's a question though: Do we think AVP is canon in the Predator timeline?
Oh, that's a whole different ball of wax.
That first movie was so good. I'm really excited to watch the rest of them. We've been talking about it a couple times over the past week.
The rest of the Predators?
Yeah, I know they're not going to be, they're not going to be great, but I'm definitely really excited.
We go from Arnold Schwarzenegger to Danny Glover, so I don't know.
I just looked up Prometheus on IMDb. I didn't realize that the writing crew for that was John Spates, who did the screenplay for Dune and Dune 2, and Damon Lindelof.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got some pretty decent writers here. It's kind of weird.
I'm anticipating, for this so far. Recently, I just watched Alien last week or whatever to get, just to refresh myself for this talk we're having. So I'm looking forward. I'm hopping into Alien 2 sometime this week. I'm looking forward to going through them all and just seeing how they feel now, and stuff. So I know Brady's working a little ahead of us, but I think that I'm kind of excited, like you say, just to go back and just kind of see how we feel about things, knowing a little bit more than we do.
Yeah.
For this kind of thing. So.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, Prometheus is still the third highest ranked Alien movie. It's higher than 3 and Resurrection. So.
Well, there you go.
Interesting. Where does Aliens stand in this? Is it close to the first one, or is there a bit of a gap? Oh no, it is. Yeah, we got 0.1 stars of difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that I think that, and we'll talk about it more when we talk about Aliens too, but Aliens is, I feel more quotable. It's more, and that's just because of the nature. It's an action war flick,
sure.
Right? And like I said, that was what was interesting about this isn't an alien movie. This is a horror movie. I mean, when Ridley Scott was getting ready for it, he said there were 3 main influences, of course, Star Wars and 2001 Space Odyssey for, the space visuals.
Yeah, I definitely felt that.
Yeah, which you can tell the long, ponderous stuff, kind of harkens to 2001 Space Odyssey. But then he made everybody watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? Because they were trying to also get the feel of a slasher, even though I think it was Brady mentioned these aren't these aren't the kids on the Geico commercial that stand behind the chainsaws, right? These are smart people who are stuck in a bad situation, right? But they wanted to get that feel in there. So.
Yeah, and I mean, it definitely came across. I mean, as a horror movie, I think it's really well done. It does a great job of building suspense throughout the whole film. You know, my favorite analogy for suspense is that one from Quentin Tarantino, where he talks about suspense is taking a rubber band and just stretching it and just seeing how far the audience will let you stretch it before you finally let go. And I think this movie did a really good job of that, and like slowly building the stakes of slowly watching this alien, you know, morph into this massive thing. I think it did great.
Well, and I think the alien actually has like 4 minutes of screen time or something too. Right?
Really?
It's something like that. It's really short, and you know, it's kind of the what you don't see. And that's, you know, when I was talking about the director's cut or the assembly cut, I think they wanted it named. There's actually a scene. So when I can't remember if it's the first guy. Veronica Cartwright or Harry Dean Stanton, when they're in there and he's coming up behind him, in the assembly cut, they actually have a more wide shot, and they're showing the alien standing up behind her, and it just isn't the same effect as when you don't see it really. When you just kind of glimpse it on the screen, it's a little bit more suspenseful, a little bit scarier, you know, and stuff. When you see the whole thing, it just doesn't quite. And I remember one time watching a special feature where they actually showed the shot, and it's like, yeah, it's not the same. You know, you got to have that eye for what you're not showing and scaring people. I mean, when Tom Skerritt dies, you know, in the vent, you see the alien for like half a second at the most.
That's such
a
good scene.
Oh yeah, yeah. And but you get the. And I heard him talking about it on the video. You get that beep where they're using the motion sensor thing, and the beep speeds up, and subconsciously that's you know, getting your heart rate to speed up too, right? You know, so it's kind of in tune with that, and it's kind of freaking you out. So I mean, it's just those little tricks there are the ones that make this movie what it is, and make it the standard.
Yeah.
Right, when you're doing this kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I love that. I love that I love little things like that with the beeping and stuff. And then, you know, we talked about set design and, you know, just general story direction. I mean, just the fact that he's in these air vents fills you with that like claustrophobic sense of like, oh man, if he sees the alien, he's not getting out.
Right.
Like there's no way he can turn and run. He's in a vent.
You bet.
Yeah. It was really well done throughout the whole thing. I really liked Tom Skerritt's Dallas too. He was a really fun character.
Well, yeah, we got to talk about the cast. We always do. You know, I think where did I see it somewhere? There, I think at one point Harrison Ford was being looked at, of course, you know, and that sort of thing. But I think Tom Skerritt kind of pulled it off. I think the way that he's got it, and of course, I know him mostly from Top Gun. Right, and I haven't got you to watch that one yet. Another show that I keep telling you I'm going to make you watch is Space Camp, but that's more of a, you know, family fun kind of thing. Sure. So he's definitely not the same thing there. But yeah, he's been around for a while. Of course, you know him from. I know where you know him from.
Where do I know him from?
Well, isn't he what's her name's crush on How I Met Your Mother or something, or she had a fling with him because he's a Canadian actor. I thought on How I Met Your Mother there's a ton of references to Tom Skerritt, like towards the end of the series or something like that. I thought you were going to pull that out. Maybe I know there's the Neil Young reference, but I think Tom Skerritt also shows up.
It could be. If I don't remember that, it's time for a rewatch.
Yep, you better get on your 12th rewatch. But
12. You don't give me enough credit.
But yeah, he's and I think he just recently passed too. But he's been around. He's been around for a while. So.
Oh yeah, born in 1933. That's a bit of a time.
And then of course we got John Hurt, which we talked about him recently. You guys remember him when you were kids? We watched the Merlin show.
Yes.
The voice of the dragon on Merlin. Yeah.
I was actually after this movie, I was just thinking about restarting that.
Yeah.
It's only like 5 seasons.
But he's also Ollivander in Harry Potter, you know, the wand guy and stuff. Spaceballs, of course. I mean, he's been around. He's done all kinds of things. You know?
Yeah. 1984. What was this other one I just saw? Elephant Man.
Yeah,
you know, yeah. He's definitely around.
We talked about Yaphet from which nobody else really knows him, but we do, and because we just watched him last week. Veronica Cartwright is the female. What was her name? Lambert. Yes.
Yeah, she was unbearable.
She was the. She reminds me of Shelley Duvall in The Shining, right?
Yeah.
I know her. She's also in another movie. Eventually, I'm going to make you watch called Flight of the Navigator. But again, that's just kind of a family kid movie that I watched as a kid.
I remember talking about that. She's also in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds.
Well, there you go.
She's not Tippi Hedren. She's not the main character, but she's in there. This is a weird movie.
That's a classic. Harry Dean Stanton.
Yes, I was waiting when you were going to bring him up.
Yeah, we brought him up a few times. I know him from Green Mile and stuff.
Yes. Nerds, more youthful nerds will know him from Avengers. He is the security guard that is in the building that Hulk falls through at one point.
He must have been somebody's friend just to pull him in there. But
yeah. I loved his character, not in this, but in Escape from New York.
I was going to say, are you going to bring that one up? Yeah, we recently saw him in that, and we're going to see him soon when we watch Christine. So he's in that one as well, yeah.
Yeah, he's really he was fun in this. I liked that he had just right. Right.
Him and Yaphet always wanting more pay. I mean, again, that makes you feel like that was their drive or whatever. So they had it in there. And then last one I want to bring up, of course, was good old Bilbo.
Yes.
Right, Ian Holm.
What a sweetheart.
Yes, Fifth Element. We might watch that one of these days. But he was also in Time Bandits. He was Napoleon in Time Bandits.
That's right. I forgot that.
Another movie we're going to watch shortly is Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan. He's in that. So I mean, these are all people that, and I don't know if it. I haven't looked at the releases for all of them. I feel like this was early for some of them, right? Or at least after this, they got a little boost. Because, like I say, I'm mentioning all these movies that I know, and I feel like it's a cross pollination of these people that we see and everything, and then they end up being in all of these things because they were in. I think because they were in this. Now I could be wrong on that. Maybe this was just another product of all the things they do. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. There's definitely. I mean, when you're. Okay. Actually, first before I say that. Does Blade Runner happen, or does he make Blade Runner after this? Ridley Scott, that is?
Yeah, that I don't know. When was Blade Runner?
I want to say like 81. I could look it up, but I'm looking through the filmography of some of these people.
Yeah. Let me just pop that open.
I guess I could also just... Sorry, go ahead,
82
Brady.
is Blade Runner.
82. Okay. I was close.
So yeah, Blade Runner comes after this, which again, Philip K. Dick novel. So...
Yeah,
we keep bringing them up, I guess. But
I was curious to know, like, where does this, is what's his name? Ridley Scott. Is he like a known commodity at this point, or was this early on for him? I wonder.
He's definitely a known commodity now. I can tell you that right now. Now, looking at some of the stuff I'm seeing on your list there, yeah, I'm not seeing much.
Yeah,
this one.
Mostly TV. Only two feature films.
I mean, between this and Blade Runner, I think you kind of set your sci-fi cred, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so the point that I was gonna make is now moot. But what I was gonna say is, if Ridley Scott is a known commodity, then it makes sense that either based off of this or just general movie stuff. I mean, through him, these actors would have lots of connections to other directors, filmmakers, to be involved in the stuff that you would see later on.
You bet. Well, and that's another thing. I know I keep steering us back towards Alien instead of talking about all the other movies, but Ridley Scott, and then he takes off, right? And then I think the second one, Aliens. Brady, who's Aliens? Is that
James Cameron?
Yeah, it is Cameron. Okay, obviously we know James Cameron, right?
Yeah,
from things. And then Alien 3 was David Fincher, right?
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Club.
Yeah. So I mean, you're getting these directors for this property, and this is a what you might think of. I mean, anybody who doesn't know these movies or anything might look at this as just these are just sci-fi movies, But these are, artistic directors that they're getting for these, and then either they take off after that or they keep on rolling with it, right? It's just kind of interesting how the Alien franchise did that, right? Again, going back to every movie's different, every director is different, but yet they're all big name directors. It's not like a lot of these movies, the sequels, you get somewhat of a no-name director or a gun for hire just to do the sequel because they already have the tone, right? They're doing it differently, which I thought was interesting. So,
yeah, no, I mean, Sorry, go ahead, Brady.
I was gonna say, and it did a lot for like other directors too. We were talking about the Dan O'Bannon doing Dark Star with John Carpenter. The Thing was shelved for years, and it was only taken seriously and taken off the shelf and actually made after Alien had such good reception, and then studios wanted another sci-fi horror, and that's why The Thing was taken seriously, and that's what one of the biggest things that John Carpenter did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we talk about that every time we talk about Carpenter. How badly I want to see it and how long it has.
We got it on the list, but we've got so many plans.
Oh man, that's interesting. And I know that we talked about this when we did Escape. Is The Thing after Escape, or is Escape newer? I can never remember.
I think The Thing is before Escape, isn't it? Because I thought wasn't it? Let's see, because he came off The Thing, right?
The Thing is 82. Escape is 81. Okay.
Escape is 81.
Yeah, so you're right the first time.
Okay,
interesting. That's curious. I think that's really cool. I mean, that sort of further shows how much of a cultural impact this movie has had, not just on like the culture itself and horror and sci-fi and stuff. It's spawned, or maybe didn't spawn, but it's the reason that we have one of the other major classic movies. I think that's really cool.
It definitely is.
Okay, so in this, we always talk about cinematography for a little while.
Yes.
There were a few shots that I liked. There were some really cool tracking shots that I enjoyed. There's one, I think it's relatively early on. I don't remember what happens, to be honest. But Sigourney Weaver is just going through the Nostromo, and the camera follows her. It's a tracking, but it's like ever so slight, so we almost see her round the corner before the camera does.
Okay.
I really liked that scene. But all in all, there's a lot of things that I didn't like in this movie. The cinematographer is Derek Van Lint, and he used a lot of zooms, which I hate.
Yeah.
It's just so unnatural to the eye, the human eye. I hate it. But which is funny because some of my favorite directors use zooms all the time.
Right. I mean, Hitchcock, didn't he kind of pioneer some of those dolly zooms?
Yeah, my favorites, Hitchcock, Tarantino, Tarkovsky, right. Stanley Kubrick, they're all famous for zooms, and I hate that shot, but I love them. So I didn't necessarily like that. And one aspect of this movie that every time it happened just made me like want to look away, and it happened a lot, was all of the strobe lights. There was so many flashing lights. It was ridiculous.
Well, don't you know, in the future they don't care about epilepsy, so you don't have to worry about the disclaimer at the beginning of the movie or anything. But
well, and the worst part is that some of them weren't like practical lights. Like some of them were strobe lights in the background or whatever, and that's something. But a lot of them were like effects that were just put on the screen. They would just like flash blue for a little while. You could tell that it didn't come from a light source, and that's why when I was like, okay, I don't know if this is a very good artistic choice.
Well, that's what, in the very late 70s, early 80s, that's what space looked like.
Yes. But I did like the way that they used the strobes to sort of hide, the alien. I mean, that's a common horror trope nowadays, to use flashing lights to sort of only see short seconds of it.
And sometimes that's used too when you're not confident about your makeup effects or something like that too, right? When you are, and now granted, like I said, I think a lot of this was very specifically wrapped around, we don't want to show you, we want you to be scared, right? But sometimes if you're, because there was some comments that I heard where he was a little bit nervous about how it looked. But some of the stuff they did, I mean, and Brady, maybe I'm talking out of the turn here, but he, like, for example, when you knew the chest burster scene, right? Yeah. You knew what was going to happen because of Spaceballs. Thank you, Spaceballs, because arguably better. But it's interesting in that in some of the documentaries I saw where he didn't tell them what was going to happen.
Oh,
right.
cool.
So when you're watching it, there is a scene where it's not coming through the shirt, and that was actually a mishap, but he liked it because it was like the alien was trying to come through, right? But all the blood that flies out, and that sort of thing, and all the stuff flying around, he didn't really tell the crew that was going to happen. Tom Skerritt said he was kind of following him around because he was really interested in making movies, so he kind of knew. But like Veronica Cartwright, the one who screams, and stuff, that's all real.
That's cool.
She had no idea all that was going to happen. And I think it was that scene. There's a quote somewhere where Yaphet, Kotto said he had to go to his trailer and just sit and be by himself a little bit. He was so traumatized by it.
That's funny. I always love when they do stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
When you can feel that the reactions are genuine. So you mentioned you like using the strobes to like cover up like bad makeup or prosthetics or whatever. But what I will say is, even though we don't get to see him for a really long time, I thought the alien looked really good.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know, as much as I enjoyed the effect, and I liked the suspense of not seeing him often, I don't know if it was necessary just because I thought the alien looked so good.
Well, and it's something that rewards you on rewatches too, because if you actually look close, and I didn't notice it the first time, like when Kane, when Harry Dean Stanton is going in the room, and they mentioned on this documentary that everybody told Scott that there is no reason to have water running and chains hanging in this room, but he wanted them.
Yeah.
And there's actually a shot where you can actually see you actually see the alien curled up in the background, cool. And stuff, but you don't necessarily see it. And like I said, they specifically designed the set also to look a little organic too. So it kind of, I'm sure subliminally it's giving you a little trick of the eye there, and stuff. But
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, that biomechanical style is a huge like cornerstone of H.R. Geiger's work. The whole like biomechanical art, you can see it a lot in his concept art that he did for the Jodorowsky's Dune as well.
Yeah, it's definitely, you can tell that. What's that?
It's interesting you guys talk about the strobe lights too, because an interesting piece of trivia is the blue strobe lights in the egg sac chamber on the planet. Those weren't like prepared, those were like improvised. They actually came from the Who was recording in the next sound recording room. And they walked over and they asked if they could borrow their lights. So those blue strobe lights are from the Who.
Oh, that's really cool. That's fun.
It's pretty slick the way they and we've heard about it. We've talked about it before when they especially on Escape from New York, when they're reusing things and they bought an old jet and blew it up, that kind of thing. That guerrilla style. We talked about it with Mad Max as well. That guerrilla style of television or filming and stuff, just to get that out there. It's always fun when you see that kind of stuff. So the alien, of course, we talk now about Andy Serkis and stuff. We all love Gollum. But the what's the guy's name? Balaji Badeo. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. I think this is his only credit or something, but he
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, he was in a bar and somebody saw him, and they said, "Can you do this?" And they brought him in. He's actually like a graphic artist or something like that, and he opened up went back to Nigeria and opened a art gallery or something like that after this. But I mean, just the way that he gets that movement down, it set the stage for obviously future Aliens. And then, of course, being able to throw him in that suit really makes it work. So,
yeah, definitely, it makes it feel alive. I like the movement. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that. I forgot about that until now. It definitely felt like unsettling.
Yeah,
yeah. Balaji Badeo. Sorry, go ahead.
Long, and it had to be long and angular, with an opposable frame. And they saw this guy who was 6'10" and extremely thin. So they thought that's who we need.
I mean, that's just crazy. You just grab him and throw him in a suit.
Yeah, well, looking at his arms, I mean, these things, they go almost all the way down to his knees. Like, these are crazy. 6'10", probably, unfortunately, why he died in 92.
Yeah, I'm afraid that when that heart's got to pump pumped blood all through that length, it's a little bit tough, I think.
Yeah.
So.
R.I.P. Andre the Giant. Okay, where is this number?
But, we also talked about effects. We talked about the chest burster and how that was actually real blood, real animal entrails.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that they were shooting around out there, and they said that with the lights, it just stunk. It was terrible.
Oh, sure.
And the face hugger, Brady, I'm sure you saw this too. The face hugger was made using fresh shellfish, 4 oysters, and a sheep kidney, which they said again. You could not film very long because under the heat lamps or the light, the studio lights and stuff, it would just go rank real fast.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that room must have smelled like.
Oh yeah,
God.
But it's interesting, and we talk about filmmaking techniques and stuff. They're the egg. There's the shot where they're it's backlit and you can see into the egg a little bit, and that's just some guy with I think it's actually Ridley Scott with his hand in there moving stuff around, and then when the chest burster hops out of the egg, what they actually did is they put the egg up top and just dropped it, and that's how they get that effect and stuff. It's just you think now with CGI we can do whatever we want. We're going to see that in other alien movies,
yeah.
But it's just interesting how that all played out and how they could make that work. And again, it's such a impactful effect.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I love whenever they do like practical effects, whenever they try to make something happen in the real world. I think it's always more fun. That's really cool that he was just like twirling some stuff around the egg. I was just looking it up. I was curious. The budget on this was $11 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that would have translated to in '79. Like how I guess how would you classify this movie? Would you say that it's like low or mid budget?
I don't know. Let's look and see what was Star Wars in '77. We'll just go with a direct comparison there and see. I can't remember because I feel like my head. Yeah, okay.
The same.
11 million.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Star Wars made quite a bit more than Alien.
I did bring in a bit more, but I don't know.
Dang, it made $1.5 million opening weekend. That's kind of crazy. Sorry, what did you say, Brady?
11 million in 1979 is worth 47 million today.
So pretty cheap.
Yeah. Oh, Alien, fun fact, made twice as much opening weekend as Star Wars.
There, suck it, Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean the Crows. We got a bit of a margin, but so okay, curious. So like 40 million. I'm gonna look up the average movie budget in the 70s. The year you were born, why not? Oh, 76. I typed the wrong number.
I was going to say, you better not think that's the year I was born. Third, Rocky? Oh, that's rentals.
Rocky had to have had like a minimal budget.
Yeah, that's not budget. That's gross. Excuse me.
Here we go. Movie budgets from thenumbers.com. Oh, this isn't going to help me.
So what? What did it say? We're up to 300 billion? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Rocky, just less than $1 million for the budget of Rocky.
Well, that's just a dude walking around the streets.
Well, also, they probably didn't have to pay him anything for the story. Right. He was like, please take it. Okay.
Mr. Selman, Philadelphia, probably.
I'm going to guess probably minimal budget. Because
11 million? Yeah. I mean, they had some money because like Brady was talking about, this kicked off the thing. Well, the reason that this got made is because Star Wars came out and they had this script and they wanted to get some more, sci-fi stuff going. Right. So, I mean, they definitely gave them, they planned on getting this thing going because of that. And they wanted to throw some money at it just to get another one. They try, I think they said they even tried a toy line.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was an 18-inch Alien or something. Didn't go over well because, of course, an R-rated movie, the kids can't see it. So, but they were trying to figure out the way the sci-fi movies make the money, because George did everything he could with the toy line to really kick that into high gear. But
I was just looking up some other movies from around the time period. The Thing had a budget of 15, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is in '78, had a budget of 3.5. So I don't know.
Well, it costs more to go to what is the things in Antarctica, I think, or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're in some polar caps.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed. I'm just gonna completely transition from talking about the budget. We got a really hard segue here. I like the fact that this movie has such a limited cast. I like that you only see like 6 people, and that's pretty much it. And then the alien. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed that. It feels much more like you get to understand and learn and interact with the characters a little bit more. I thought that was really, really fun.
Well, and it is interesting because they said too. I mean, you think of if we're sticking with the horror tropes, they always talk about the final girl, right? There's always the one girl that makes it, and they didn't want that to happen when they named the characters. When they named the cast, created the cast, they did not define genders at all because they didn't want it to be that, even though it ended up that yes, we got a final girl, but it's not the same kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
This isn't the the Halloween trope or anything like that. This is one person survived because it was such a big ordeal, but it's not a I don't consider this a final girl kind of thing.
No,
that same trope. And like I said, they specifically tried to not do anything with the genders when they were setting up the cast because they didn't want that feeling in there at all.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the way to do it is to write the story and just, write the characters and do whatever, and then just cast whoever happens to be the best person for that role. And I think that's what happened here. You're not necessarily shooting to have the last girl standing, and then you get Sigourney Weaver who just knocks it out of the park.
Right. Well, but arguably what they ended up doing was they ended up kicking off somewhat of a, the female action star thing. When we were in Colorado, we were listening to the podcast. We were talking about female action stars, or the female characters who were the main action protagonists in their movies. Sigourney Weaver kind of kicks that off a lot more, I think, in the second one because she takes control, and it, like I say, it's a war movie, so you have that opportunity, right, to just become that badass lady or whatever, and stuff. But I think a lot of people nowadays, if you talk about, early badass females in movies, you think of Sigourney Weaver's Ripley, right? You think of that as the, this is what we, and I've seen other movies where the actress has said, yeah, it's kind of channeling that Ripley thing, and stuff when they're trying to figure out how their character is going to be, so
yeah,
it definitely, even though it was set out not to use that final girl trope, they kind of created a different trope in doing it.
Yeah,
and obviously that's helped out by future movies and the fact that they keep bringing her back and she becomes this recurring thing in this IP. But it's just interesting what that gave us.
Yeah.
And that's still going on. You look at the movie Underwater that came out just a few years ago in 2020. It's reeking of alien influence, and you look up Kristen Stewart's character design, 100% Ripley.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell that's exactly what they're going for, with everything from the suit to her character design, to the suspense, to the feeling constrained, trapped at the bottom of the ocean.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point. Did you see this? Did you think it was good?
Yeah, I thought it was good. It wasn't that well received, but I did really enjoy it.
What else?
We're watching the whole movie like an old
Twilight. That's right. I was trying to find. I'm going kind of fast. I was trying to find a good image.
Did you not know
of
that
her.
Kristen Stewart was Twilight? Man,
I'm so sorry.
Emily's going to be so mad. Hopefully she's not watching.
Colleen Wing.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
I like her. Okay. I'll give it a watch. I like Colleen Wing. She's great. There we go.
That's not her name.
No, it's not. Jessica Henwick. She was good in that movie with the lady who's going to play Shalabal in Fantastic Four.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Julia Garner.
She's from Ozark, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the movie's called anymore.
No.
Something about a hotel or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The movie itself wasn't that great, but she was good.
Well, good.
I like, so here's the thing. I like Ripley throughout this, she takes like an active role in, ultimately getting rid of the alien.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that it wasn't, her being like, I'm going to be a badass. I'm going to take this thing on, straight on, I'm going to shoot it or burn it with the flamethrower.
Yeah.
I like the idea that she was like, okay, this thing is huge. How do I do this? Okay, I'll push him outside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like that. It felt like, yeah, this is a logical progression. When you've got something that is like 3 times your size and an alien,
right.
You would try to find some creative means to get rid of it.
Right. And they are trying to figure out something, and of course that was the one thing. So at one point in the creative process, they were like, well, why don't they just shoot it? Right. And that's where the whole acid blood thing comes in, because they needed a reason that they couldn't just shoot it, and that sort of thing, which always, and they even say, they even, when they came up with it, and then they even say it in the movie, it's like, yeah, that's a hell of a defense mechanism. Well, that's the thing, right? So now you've got to start problem solving how you're going to get rid of this thing if you can't do that, or else you just die yourself, right?
Yeah.
And stuff. So it is interesting, the way that they did the problem solving and that sort of thing. You talk about the final bit, he had a whole different plan where the alien was going to come out and actually get her.
Oh.
And she was going to die. And I think that is either the studio or test audiences did not go for that at all. So they ended up with the ending that they did get. But it's kind of interesting when you talk about, when they are creating this thing and how they go through processes. And then, like I say, that gave us the Ripley trope. Mm-hmm. The fact that she survives and takes him out and that sort of thing is kind of a thing. So.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. When the alien, maybe, I don't know if this was shared in the fact or whatever, when the alien was going to get her, was he going to get her on like the escape shuttle or whatever in that same end scene instead of getting pushed out, or was he going to get her like on the actual Nostromo?
All right, Brady, did you look into this one? Because I got kind of a theory here, based off of facts. Okay, so here's what I've heard. So let me couch this by saying, in the assembly cut, the part that breaks canon, is she actually goes down into a portion of there's a scene where she goes down into a portion of the ship, and Tom Skerritt's there, and the bodies of the other people are there, and they are getting turned into the eggs.
Oh.
So, and Brady will know in future, the reason you have a queen is to lay the eggs, right?
Sure.
So that's why it's somewhat different than what we've got. So what I think I heard, or what I'm gathering from this, and you're supposed to see this, and I couldn't really tell, is that when the alien is on the shuttle, he's just saving himself. He's kind of grayer, like his life cycle's already almost done, because he's killed these people, created new eggs, right? Is what they originally had planned. So that's why it takes him so long to climb out of that thing and come after her too, is that the alien's actually just dying because the life cycle is done, is what I've heard the original plan was. Now, future movies, of course, change that completely, because the life cycle is a whole lot different. And how do you have an alien that only lives for a day, really be that dangerous, right? So I see why they changed that. But I think that is kind of the thing, is that they were looking at it from that angle. And then, that's why he kind of moves a little bit slow when it comes time to off him there.
Okay, interesting. That's weird. I'm glad they changed that. I don't like the idea that
he's dead. He's just dying. Like I say, it's like if butterflies were killer moths, or what, butterflies only live 6 hours? I don't know what it is. Something like that. Yeah. I could be wrong on that. But if you've got an animal, this carnivorous animal that's out to kill you, and he only lives, his race ain't gonna last that long. So,
yeah.
Now, granted, he's got an interesting way of reproducing, so who knows? But.
Yeah, it's a little weird. There's definitely a lot of steps involved there.
Yeah.
Okay, so one other thing that I had forgotten until now, and I would have been mad if I'd not said on the episode. We mentioned Ian Holm. I don't really like the fact that he's an android.
Okay, so that was my question. Did you guys, it may have been something you already know, but were we expecting that?
I wasn't expecting it. I thought he was just sort of a weird guy, but the reveal happens, and maybe this is just me, I don't know, maybe you guys don't feel the same way, but it felt so like out of place in the universe. To me, this didn't seem like the kind of world that would have fully realistic androids, androids to the degree that they can pass as humans.
Well, if we are talking the Blade Runner world, then we got
That's true.
what do they call? Replicants. Yeah,
Replicants. Yeah, I didn't like that. I don't know, Brady. What do you think? Did that make sense to you, or like me? Did you sort of just eh?
Yeah, I actually really did like it, and I knew that they had existed in the world from David from Prometheus and Alien Covenant, which I saw before this one. But I didn't consider it a possibility in the movie until there's a scene where they're all stressed out, and Ripley is like, "What do you think, Ash? What do you think we should do?" And he says, or what does Mother say? Mother being the AI that is in charge of the ship to a certain extent. And he goes, "We're still collating." I was like, "Oh, no human would say the word like collating."
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
Situation. That's what
And
I
it
put
is.
it.
Yeah, and there are a couple hints too. So there's a before the dinner scene when Ripley walks up to Ash, and he's looking at a screen. He quicks turn off the screen. If you look close, you actually see that he sees the embryo inside of him. So he knows what's going on there, and he quick turns it off so she doesn't see that he sees that, because he's out to, just figure out what this thing is, right?
Yeah.
And there is there's a tell if you during the dinner scene when everybody's freaking out because he's coughing and choking, they're throwing him on the table. Ash is just kind of sitting there staring. And that sort of thing. So it's those kind of things where they tried to lead up to that. And there's actually a bunch of lines of dialogue that they cut out where when he's just a floating head, that explaining stuff, talking a little bit more. At the time he's talking with the milk coming out, and stuff like that. Where they have more lines of him. Yeah.
There's another little hint too, is when that same microscope scene after she leaves, he takes a drink of the milk. And one, who drinks milk? Two, why would a scientist, bring such, food into a lab with this foreign object unless it's absolutely required? Which in this case, it's the thing that we don't get a name for at all in the Alien series, but is named in another Ridley Scott intellectual property, Fuel Blood.
Wow.
Fuel Blood.
Yes.
Sounds delicious.
If you watch the HBO series Raised by Wolves, which is also produced by Ridley Scott, there are also some form of androids or like human-like robots, and they have the similar blood type thing, and it's called Fuel Blood. In that,
I haven't got around to that one.
I call
yet.
that an Alien too. Really good. Strong recommend, especially if you like the more intellectual Alien versus like some of the other, like we talked about the other war movie and other action ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like the more intellectual first one.
Yeah. So we mentioned I've almost skipped past. I saw the trailer for that show, and that's been on my list for a while. So if you say it's good, I'll probably give it a watch once I finish Smallville.
Don't rush it. Don't rush for it. It was canceled at a huge story moment, and we're not going to get any closure. So.
Dang, that sucks. Maybe I just won't. I just won't watch it. That's gonna irritate me. So we mentioned the AI Mother. First of all, Mother as a name for an AI. It's depending on the type of AI, I think it's a dumb name. In this case, I don't know if Mother really works. If we had like an AI, sort of like Hal could be called Mother, right? Because Hal oversees the entire ship and stuff, and we see him involved in all of the active processes, but we don't really like see Mother.
Well,
except for
And they actively avoided that because the initial. So you're talking about how you weren't quite sure about the whole android thing. The initial plan was that Mother was the Ash character, and that Mother was doing all. Mother let him in through the airlock, and stuff to bring the alien in, and Mother did all this stuff, and redirected him and stuff because Mother is the one controlling all this. But they were worried because that was exactly what Hal was doing, right?
Yeah.
They didn't want to recreate the Hal thing, so that's why they did the android thing to kind of pull that out. So, and the Mother nomenclature, yeah, Brady.
I was gonna say, if we want to talk about why it's called Mother, we have to get into a whole bunch of like psychoanalysis and like a whole bunch of different themes that happen throughout this movie, which is probably a whole nother episode, maybe a whole nother book. But
Well, now
Mother,
one thing that I saw, I think on
eggs.
the IMDb trivia, it doesn't actually say that it's like MU and T. You know, it's just like the serial number of the computer, you know, and stuff. And that's like when we were doing the Shall We Play game.
Oh, War Games.
And it was
Jinx.
Whopper, right?
Tory.
Because that just happened to be the letters, the acronym, or whatever.
Right.
So that's where the mother name comes from. Is whatever geek made the acronym up for the computer. It just sounds out like mother. So
Interesting. Yeah, so yeah, Mother, that's the type of thing that I wish they had sort of included it a little more. I feel like maybe I'm misremembering, but I think we only get like 2 scenes where people actually go and like discuss with Dallas, and then afterwards
right.
Ripley.
I mean, nowadays, yeah, with ChatGPT and stuff, you're going to get more of that. That's going to become it's going to be more of a thing, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and earlier we talked about how all of the crew members are competent, but I just got to say, Dallas asking Mother, just say, "What are my chances?" You could ask a better worded question here. You could include some context. We could try a little harder.
Well,
here.
see, now that, we're getting in a psychoanalyst there, because that's just Dallas needing to talk to somebody about his fears when he's a captain and he can't talk about his fears. So there you go.
Yeah, but okay. What did he think was going to happen? He types in alien or whatever, and it says nothing found, or whatever the actual line is.
I definitely feel that their user interface needed more inputs. Yeah, there's definitely something there. Now, we could say that maybe it's wired up to all the analysis in the science lab, so maybe Mother already had that information anyway.
Sure. But just he goes, something about alien. It says nothing found or whatever, and then he's like, "What are my chances?" She just said there's no information, homie. What is she gonna do? There's not enough variables here.
Yeah, and that's something that is into that in Alien 3, where they do a full body scan, and then the results are automatically shipped back to the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, and you see a notification that a medevac will arrive in 2 hours. So he is probably working under the assumption that it does have like an all-seeing eye.
So it's Google.
Yeah, sure. One thing I will say, we sort of haven't even discussed like the major plot point of like why Ash is like, we should just leave the alien on board, because he's got like a secret directive from the whatever the corporation is to bring the alien home, and so they can study it or whatever.
Right.
And I like that. I think that's a really good plot device, but also thematically, I like that, the idea of the whole time, Parker and Harry Dean Stanton, whose name I can't remember. Kane. They're complaining about how they want to get more, they want to get paid more, they want more shares or whatever. It's like constant complaining against the company, and then you find out that the reason they're dead is because the company was like, we need to see this. We got to figure out the information. I like that theme there. I thought it was fun, and it worked good as a plot device.
Definitely, and Brady will attest to this too. I mean, obviously that's a theme that's going to keep on going. Of course, evil corporations, right? We know this theme constantly, right? That they're out there just to make money and stuff. But yeah, we're going to see that. We're going to keep on seeing that. So
yeah. So guys, any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Brady, what do you think?
No, I don't think so. Any other things that people should watch if they liked Alien, other than the rest of the aliens?
I was going to say,
I already talked about Raised by Wolves for another intellectual Ridley Scott property.
Oh, what was a good science fiction movie I just watched the other day?
Well, if you want science fiction horror, I think what you got to go with is Event Horizon. I don't know if you guys have seen that one yet.
Is that with Lawrence Fishburne?
Yeah, and Sam Neill. If you're talking science fiction horror, I think that one really fits the bill. And we've talked about this on this program many times. Is Tory is not a horror kind of guy.
Yeah.
But this one, it's worth a watch if you want something scary. In fact, it's a good. It's possibly a good oh, what's the word I'm thinking of? Halloween movie. That's the word.
Oh.
So tough to think of.
Oh, interesting. Man, I was trying to find what this horror movie I watched was, but I can't find it. It was really good too, and it's gonna irritate me. Okay, why is Rise of the Planet of the Apes listed as a sci-fi horror reboot?
Them monkeys are scary.
Also, I wouldn't call The Purge sci-fi. Oh, I can't think of anything. I can't remember what it was. But here listed is Cloverfield. You know, those are fun. I mean, completely, totally different in every way.
But that's another one, too. That's another series where they've kind of done different things, right? Because there's been, 3 of them, right? Because there's Cloverfield, which is the found footage show. There is 10 Cloverfield Lane, which starts out as a, kind of a apocalyptic shut-in kind of thing, right?
Yeah, with John Goodman.
Yeah, which that one's great. And then we got the recent one. I can't remember what it was called.
Paradox.
Where they're up in space, right?
Yeah, this one is Paradox. I haven't seen this one yet, but it's directed by the guy who's doing Captain America: Brave New World, Julius Onah.
5'5". That's a lot less than Willow.
I love that is always the frame of reference.
You know it. Well, Willow's 7'2", right? Maybe I should go. I should go in and be padding Willow a little bit.
7'2".
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, that's a fair rating. I was gonna say I don't know about that, but that's fine. I actually really want to watch this again.
Well, you should. It's a classic. It should have a viewing every year, along with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Is this on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or at least it was at one point. But
yeah. Okay.
because it's Lucasfilm.
That's right. Of course it's on Disney Plus. So, Dad, did you have any final thoughts?
No, like I say, we've talked about it, and we talk about it with all these shows. When it comes down to it, you should watch these. And even if you're not a horror person, like I say, I'm not a horror slasher guy, right? And that put me away from this kind of this movie quite a bit. But
sorry, I just remembered something. You can continue.
Okay, well, good.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to inhale quite so loudly.
But even if you're not a horror slasher guy, it's still, it's still a touchstone that is important to watch. It's fun to watch. It's fun to see these actors that we see in a lot of other things. It's fun to see, Ridley Scott movie. Of course, we've got Gladiator 2 coming out. Ridley Scott's still doing the good stuff. So I think it's worth it. I think I definitely give it a watch. I'm glad we're going back and watching it. I'm glad we're going through the whole, or we're planning on going through at least most of the IP. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I'm really excited. That's I've wanted to watch these for quite a long time, and so I'm glad that I've got an excuse to do so now. The reason I inhaled so loudly was because I remembered not a related a movie that you should watch if you liked Alien, but I remembered there's the PS4 game Alien Isolation,
okay,
which is so good. It's like you're on the
Nostromo.
Yeah, can't remember if you're on the Nostromo. I was gonna say that, but
I think
it might be
I
a
actually in one of the videos I watched, I actually think it was. I think because don't they actually bring in some of the characters or something?
Well, I think you're right because I think I saw.
What's that?
What was that, Brady?
Yeah, some of the original actors do come back to voice their characters, but if I remember right, it takes place after, 15 years after the events of the movie, and follows Amanda Ripley, daughter of Ellen Ripley, as she investigates the disappearance of her mother.
Yeah, that game is so good. It does such a good job of like that horror style. I think it's so fun. Definitely pick that one up. It's just a good horror game, but it's really fun, and I would like to go back and play it now after having watched the movie.
Yeah.
Just to see how similarly they are, like tonally.
Mm-hmm.
Because watching I haven't played the game for quite a while. I think it was, again, back when we were on Arizona. I think we rented it from Hastings and then never returned it.
Classic.
And so I, for a long time, I had it in that like short, clear case or whatever.
Of course you did.
So fun. But yeah, watching the movie, I felt like set direction-wise, and yeah, tonally, it felt very similar. And so I
Well, it
want to go
must
back
not be
now.
on the Nostromo then if it's 15 years after, because I think the Nostromo's gone.
It's yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot that until now. That explosion was terrible.
Well, and there's questions as to why I mean, it's not like semis driving down the interstate have a self-destruct. I mean, obviously we have the ramps they can pull off if they're out of control, but there was some questions about why they have a self-destruct on just a commercial vessel. But
Yeah.
I suppose you got to have it. You know, maybe if you're going to crash into a planet, that's the way to get rid of it.
You never know. Did they?
So clarification: I'm reading on Wikipedia. The flight recorder for the Nostromo was located and retrieved by a salvage ship.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's interesting because it looked like there was nothing that remained from the ship.
Well, you can't see it in space, just like you can't hear a scream.
Yes, that's another thing. We mentioned that at the beginning, but that's like an iconic line now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's something that everybody knows.
Well, it's in the Romulus, right? It's
Yeah.
You watched we went to the movie yesterday, and they had the Romulus trailer, and it's flashed up there big and major in the trailer itself. And of course, they don't get to the scream part because everybody knows it, right? Yeah. In space, no one can hear you, but everybody knows it, so they don't have to.
Well, it's still a true statement. Nobody can hear you.
That's true.
Nobody can hear you. But I think we're gonna. Sorry, go ahead, Brady.
I was just gonna say we should probably talk about Romulus. So we don't know that much about the plot yet. We do know that it is seemingly unrelated to the previous two prequels, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and it takes place closer to the event of this original movie, The Alien. So, without knowing more, and maybe we could do a little follow-up, because I am going to go see this opening weekend. I pre-ordered it to get the Alamo pint glass.
Well, of course.
Right up there. But at least Alien should be recommended viewing before watching the new one. Based on everything that we've seen and heard, it's going to harken back to the original sci-fi horror of the first one versus some of the world building or adventure of the
They're
other.
definitely, you can see that in the trailer. They are definitely trying to recreate Alien.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's the right direction. I mean, you talk about Aliens. We talked about it is pretty highly rated, and you have more memories of it.
Right.
But it's definitely very different. I think nowadays you definitely want to harken back to that, and even further than just like tonally and story wise. I saw that they are doing the face huggers all practical. I saw a video of them riding it around driving it around on set, and it looked really good even without all of the movie post-production stuff. Like, this was just a video shared to Instagram, and it looked really cool.
That's good to see.
Excited.
I mean, and it's always one of those things that say what you will about the Star Wars sequels, but when they were, showing clips of it, and you saw BB-8, and everybody's like, "Oh, CG and stuff," and then they had I think it was Hall H, and they rolled him out, and he's actually rolling out. I mean, that kind of thing really, I mean, it makes it special. When you're seeing that kind of thing, and it still looks cool. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely makes the world feel more immersive. But yes, so we were, as Brady mentioned, he's going to see that opening weekend. Dad and I are likely going to go try and see it as well. Maybe not opening weekend.
What are we at, 2 weeks?
I believe that's correct. But when the time comes for that, we will be back for a review of that. That will not be listed as a My Father Before Me because it's being released this year.
It's not before me.
So we will do that August 16th, so 12 days, just under 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we will do that as a midweek review. The next time we do a My Father Before Me, we'll be discussing Aliens, the sequel to this. And then after that, over the course of however long it takes, we'll be going through the rest of the franchise of the Alien movies, and we will be releasing all of those as midweek reviews. So definitely stay tuned for that. Follow us on X at the New Wave. No, not the New Wave Nerds. At New Wave Nerds to find out when those will be live and what day we put those up, which is also means when those will be live. I said that twice.
That's all right.
But in any case, we will be back here in 2 weeks, and we will see you guys then.